All right. Thank you very much for joining me today. I have the pleasure to introduce Ricky Brandon. And Ricky Brandon is a health and wellness advocate. He and his wife, Candy, started Hormone Balance Centers, which is based outside of Salt Lake City, Utah, because they just weren't able to get the high level of care that they needed for their own family. And after years of searching, doing the research, training, they found an approach that mixes traditional medicine with, with alternative medicine and helping people feel great again with natural hormone replacement therapy. So thank you so much for being here today. I truly appreciate it. Do you mind sharing a bit more about your journey? What led you to open this center?
I would love to share more about my journey because that's why I do it, really. I have learned over my years that women have to become master negotiators for their own health. And I really hate that it's that way, but you guys know when something's wrong. You know when something's off, and you go to the doctor, and then the doctor sends you out the door and says, well, your labs look fine. Or they say something like, your labs look fine for your age. And you go out the door going, well, I don't feel fine. I know something's wrong. I shouldn't feel like this. So that was happening to my wife. We've had 4 kids, and the last one was kind of rough. And she had a little bit of postpartum depression, but she had put on a ton of weight with our kids. Now, it's not about the vanity. I want to be clear about that. She didn't feel good. And that last kid really took his toll. And we love him and everything has been great. But my wife was depressed and she had not been able to get the weight off. So we approached the depression first. And I had been working around all these hormone doctors and herbalists and all these things, but you can't be a prophet in your own backyard. And so I'd say, well, do you want to go see this doctor? Do you want to go look at your hormones? And she'd say, no, no, no. But I was scared. My wife was different. I've got 4 kids that we have to raise together, and she just couldn't get up in the morning. She didn't feel good. I remember coming home one time from work, and she was sitting on the couch, and she looked up at me and she said, Ricky, I am so thirsty, but I just don't even feel like getting up to get a glass of water. I've been sitting here for an hour thinking about it. Will you get me a cup of ice water? This is when alarms started going off in my head, right? Like I knew things were bad, but I've kind of felt that way before. You know, you have to get up and do something and you don't really want to do it, but this was bad. So we worked through all of that for about a year. And then we finally got to a place where we were going to start working out together. So we hired a trainer and we started going to this gym. She was working out hard. I'm getting results and she's not. Finally, the owner of the gym came up to her and said, Candy, you're working hard. You're putting in the work. You're tracking your meals. You're doing everything. You should be getting better results. Now, I'd been telling her this all along, but it took someone else to say, have you ever had your hormones checked? Now, I had access to everything. I had friends I have one friend, Dr. Jones, who had been in the business for 20 years. He was one of the first hormone doctors, bioidentical hormone doctors in Salt Lake City. Not the first, maybe the second or third to open a clinic. And he was getting great results. And so when he told her that, we set an appointment with Dr. Jones. We got all of her labs done. And Dr. Jones sat down with her and started going through the labs one at a time, sat down with both of us. And he says, oh man, this is through the basement. Oh man. One of them was just her iron, right? Like it didn't take rocket science. Right. She was extremely anemic. And he said, what are you doing? And she goes, well, I take an iron supplement. He goes, what? You take an iron supplement and your iron is this low? Your ferritin is this low? And he said, I want you to change to this supplement and I want you to take this digestive enzyme with it. That's all it took. Everything changed. Then he put her on progesterone. He said, your progesterone's low, your estrogen is not high, but because your progesterone's low, you're estrogen dominant. And that's why you're not losing weight. So he put her on some progesterone, which helped her start sleeping again. And then he said, you're on thyroid medicine. And she had had half of her thyroid taken out because of a lump on it. Thank goodness it wasn't cancerous. And he said, I'm going to double your thyroid medicine. He doubled it, which no other doctor would do, right?
Mm-hmm.
The second week, she gets on the scale and she turns to me almost with tear-filled eyes and says, I lost 2 pounds. She hadn't changed anything. She was still putting in the same work. And she said, if that's all it was, I'm going to be so mad. Not mad because she found out, but mad because she went so long fighting against her body. So then, Dr. Jones retired and we bounced around trying to find other doctors. And finally, I just called Dr. Jones. I said, will you train us to start our own clinic? You're retired. Will you help me hire the right doctors, the right practitioners? Will you help me train them? Because there is a real need for this. And so that's how we opened Hormone Balance Centers. We service people nationwide. They can go on telemedicine. And what I love is that you get to spend time with the doctor going over your labs. You get to ask questions. That first appointment is easily an hour long, where you're going line by line through your labs and you understand and you can ask questions. So we do labs to start, but then once the labs are out of the way, just kind of get a starting point. Now we treat the person. We treat how you feel. And how is your body reacting? And we don't care so much about the ranges after that. Those you have to realize, you have to change your mind and your paradigm. Those hormone ranges are made based on averages. Mm-hmm. And the ranges are huge. I have my own story with testosterone and other nutrition. I was depressed also. But the range for testosterone, just as an example, is 300 to 900. That's a huge range. If you're 301 and you go to the doctor, he's going to say, you're in normal range.
Your normal range, yeah.
But you feel like crap.
Yeah.
You're in low normal. I don't know about you, but I don't want to live in low normal. That's like saying, I don't know what the poverty line is, but let's say it's $25,000 and you make $25,500 a year. That's like someone telling you the advice, don't go look for a better paying job. You're not in poverty yet. Wait till you're completely in poverty, then go look for a better job.
I love that analogy.
So we treat people to get them in high normal, high optimal. I want to live in high optimal. Now, and the key is bioidentical hormones. That means if you took a drop of your blood and you looked at it hard enough under a microscope and you saw the progesterone molecule, and you took that means whatever you're taking to replace that or supplement it looks exactly the same. Now, that's not true for things like birth control and all of those. Mm-hmm. Birth control is something called medroxyprogesterone acetate. At its core, it looks like, they're called progestins. Yeah. At its core, it looks like progesterone, but they add a methyl group and an acetate group. And that's the part that messes your body up. That's the part that causes cancer. That's the part that makes people afraid to be on hormones. And so you have to go to a compounding pharmacy. They make it bioidentical. Look, hormones aren't bad for you. If hormones were bad, we'd take out everyone's ovaries at age 30, which they kind of did for a while. Yeah. And it caused lots of trouble. You need hormones. You need them. Women need testosterone. Men need testosterone. Women need very little. Men need some estrogen and progesterone. Very little. Women need a lot more of it. I hate this. Women in menopause seems to get on this cycle. They go to their doctor says they're normal. They don't put them on hormones because they only know synthetic hormones, which have all these warnings that they're going to increase breast cancer and all of this. And they keep going, something's wrong, something's wrong, something's wrong. And the doctors come back and say, well, you've complained enough. Let's put you on an antidepressant, mm-hmm. which then helps them put on more weight. And they still feel out of whack. And it's a bad cycle. If it's your estrogen that's low, why not give you bioidentical estrogen, which is called estradiol? If your progesterone needs to be balanced, let's give you some progesterone. If it's your testosterone that you need, give you a little, I've seen testosterone reverse type 2 diabetes. They have to put in the work. You know, I have a friend who has a program. He calls it Eating for Reversal. He helps reverse type 2 diabetes with food and diet and exercise, which is, you know, similar to what you do, right? You help people live that lifestyle. And I agree, all of that helps, but sometimes you're so bad. Like my wife was so bad that she didn't want to exercise. She couldn't exercise. There was no fuel in her tank, even when she was eating right, right? And once we got that dialed in, now she has the energy to exercise. I had a sister-in-law who was nearly 400 pounds. She stopped going to the doctor because every time that she went to the doctor, and I didn't know all this stuff then, she passed away in her 30s. But every time she went to the doctor said, well, you just need to diet and exercise. Mm-hmm. Knowing what I know now, she didn't feel like dieting and exercise. She couldn't. Now, we all know those miracle stories of people who just have that willpower and push through. But hormone replacement therapy are like when you know something's off, you have no fuel in your tank, and you need that extra. So I want to help people feel great again so that they can live a wellness lifestyle. They can follow programs like what you teach. Sometimes if you just get too bad, right? Everything's too far out of whack. You're fighting against your body. Can you move the needles with the kinds of foods you eat? Yeah, you can. Sometimes not enough.
Yeah, I agree with that. So I'm finding there's a pushback from the doctors, and I've had a doctor on this podcast who said it's pointless to test hormones, which is because it's just a snapshot in time. But wouldn't it be, why wouldn't we test to at least have a baseline to see where you are, to see if we're declining or if we're, you know, what are your thoughts on that? Why
it just makes sense, doesn't it? There's something called the neuroendocrine theory of aging, right? And it's kind of a chicken before the egg. The question is, do your hormones drop because you age, or do you age because your hormones drop? We live in a world that I don't think it's possible to have a 100% perfect diet and lifestyle. There's so much stress on the body. We say stress and we think, oh, work stress. No, there's stress from the kinds of foods, chemicals, lifestyle. All of these things cause stress. And your body, the hormones communicate to your body what to do. Let's take iron again, for example, right? They measure your iron, and your iron I run into some people, their iron is high, but their ferritin is low. Like, what does that mean? Well, iron is like the storage tank that converts to ferritin, which is what then helps control and move your metabolism, right? Give you the energy and create that energy in the blood cells. Same thing with thyroid. People go and get their thyroid tested. They test their TSH usually. And they'll say your TSH is fine, which is a thyroid stimulating hormone. But you have to test other numbers. You have to test T3 and T4.
For conversion.
T4 is kind of a storage unit. Think of it as a battery that when it hits the liver and it converts to T3, which helps you regulate your metabolism. And the TSH is just saying, hey, make the thyroid, make the thyroid you need. So if that's high enough, they say, well, your thyroid's normal. If it's low, they say your thyroid's low. And then they give you something called like Synthroid is a popular thyroid medicine, which is T4. It's the storage unit. It's not necessarily the energy. So you have to measure all three to say, my T4 might be high, but my T3 is low. So something about my body is not converting the T4 to the T3, and therefore my metabolism is all screwed up. And so we would give them T3. You'd be surprised at how many doctors, I mean, I've got in arguments with them, right? And I say, that Synthroid has no T3 in it. And they go, yes, it does. I go, call the pharmacist. And they, you know, or we'll Google it or something, but it doesn't have T3 in it. And that's when the person needs is T3. And sometimes it needs to be high. Your body maybe doesn't convert it. So we got to get the other things high so that your body can use what it needs. You know, there's an herbal kind of philosophy behind Alzheimer's disease. The herbal remedy is licorice root and things like that that are high in aluminum. But people say accumulation of aluminum on the brain is what causes Alzheimer's disease. But what happens is because we don't eat foods that are naturally high in the right form of aluminum, your body starts attaching to chemical aluminums from cans or from cookware or different things because it needs aluminum, so it attaches to that. The moment you feed it the right kind of aluminum, it lets go of the bad one and latches onto the good one. So this is where your foods and everything. It's the same thing with bioidentical hormones. There's a number of reasons everything can be out of whack. It's not just, I want to get rid of that idea that I'm just holding on to my youth. It's about quality of life for us. We've all met 80-year-old ladies who are so youthful. They're like 50-year-old ladies. I have some around me. And then I've met, sometimes it's attitude, sometimes it's health, sometimes it's the way they've taken care of their bodies for their whole life. But sometimes you need that hormone replacement. It's like trying to run, maybe you're running an Indy 500 and you're putting rocket fuel in the car, but you have no tires on the car.
Yeah.
You have to balance them all. You can't ignore lifestyle. And sometimes if you're doing all the lifestyle things and it's just not getting you there and you still feel depressed, look, there's no reason to feel depressed. There's like this.
I do want to get to the lifestyle too after you finish this. After you finish.
No, I wanted to say that where the fear of the hormones comes from. Most doctors get into medicine because they want to help people. They don't have time, though, to be experts on everything. And the Women's Health Initiative came out around, I don't know, late 90s, 2000. And that's the one that said, because back then everyone was on something called Primpro, Premarin, and which was a mix of progestins and estrogen. And then this big study came out, said it causes cancer. And women were faced, well, do I get my symptoms back? Or do I maybe get cancer in 20 years? You'd be surprised how many just said, I'll maybe get cancer in 20 years. And they're not talking about the bioidenticals, because no big pharma company, and I hate to put on my foil hat, is making a ton of money off bioidenticals because you can't patent them. Compounding pharmacy makes them, they're cheap. So technically they're synthetic because they come from a laboratory. But when you look under a microscope, it looks exactly like what your body makes. And therefore your body knows how to deal with it. And even like breast cancer, they used to time, like back in the old days, they used to time when they removed breast cancer to when your body was naturally making more progesterone because it would contain it and stop the spread. And nowadays, when you have breast cancer, they take you off of all hormones. They don't give you anything. They put you on estrogen blockers, which are going to make you depressed. They're going to make your joints hurt. I feel bad for women. I mean, same thing for men, right? If you have prostate cancer, they'll block your testosterone, which I can show you study after study that shows the exact opposite. When you do it in the right way at the right time, testosterone does not raise prostate cancer. Progesterone and estradiol does not increase the chance of breast cancer. It actually lowers the chances of breast cancer and increases the quality of your life.
That's very interesting. So addressing lifestyle, I think some people might think that, I feel lousy, I don't have any energy, and I'll just get on these bioidentical hormones and then I'm going to feel fantastic, not taking into account the fact that they're not sleeping, that they are very high stressed, that their diets are not the best, maybe staying up too late, maybe drinking alcohol, excess caffeine. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I would align with you probably. Like I said, we want to get people feeling great again so they can live a wellness lifestyle. If you just do one and not the other, will your life be better? Yeah, for a certain amount of time. But you have to want to live. if you're going to go through the work and you're going to, pay for your own medical care so that you can have a consultant who's a physician instead of just someone who tells you what to do in the 15 minutes that are allotted, you are the kind of person who cares about the quality of your life. Why would you do all of this and not take care of your body and get the sleep you need? Yeah, we can give you enough progesterone to make you fall asleep every night. But again, like I'll give another herbal analogy, right?
Okay.
A lot of people use ginkgo biloba was popular, right?
Yeah.
For increasing brain health. What it did was it increased blood flow to the brain. Okay, great. But if you're eating Twinkies and drinking Coca-Cola, all that's doing is pushing Twinkies and Coke to your brain, right? You got to give it everything you need. If your body hurts, the body's amazing. The body will heal. You can't cut a garden hose in half and it won't heal, but you can cut your finger and your body sends signals that says, okay, go to work, repair, rebuild. But if you don't have the right puzzle pieces, then your body screams out in pain. I've heard incredible stories. I used to work for a company called Dr. Christopher's Original Formulas, and we toured with this woman who called herself Dr. Mom. And she used to tell this story of her son shattering his elbow. And his elbow was in tremendous pain. So they started making a poultice and giving him this herb formulation. They called it, bone, flesh, and cartilage, which is a terrible name. But it had herbs that had precursors and building blocks for rebuilding bone, flesh, and cartilage. Now, when you turn over a bottle, now these are whole food supplements. You turn over the bottle and it says take 2 capsules 3 times a day. But people who are hardcore herbalists know that's just a recommendation we put on there for the FDA. We're going to have him soaking in the bathtub with this herbal tea that's made out of this stuff. He's going to take 40 capsules a day. We're going to be rubbing ointment on there that's made out of this stuff. And his pain didn't completely go away, but it went way down because it had what it needed. His body didn't need to scream at him anymore to give it attention. And he healed up much faster than the doctors expected. It's not a miracle. He would have healed without these herbs, but his comfort level was better. And so the diet and the exercise. Look, if you're not drinking enough water, you're hosed. You're going to feel like crap. Mm-hmm. If you're not exercising, you can have all the testosterone in the world and all the progesterone that's going to help you balance your estrogen, and you're going to be able to lose some weight. But if you don't build muscle tone, you're screwed. And you're going to feel better. When you have that muscle tone, you're going to burn calories better. You know this.
Yeah.
You're going to wake up with energy. It seems counterintuitive that if I expel more energy and exercise, that I'm going to have more energy. No, your body now becomes a well-oiled machine that knows what it's supposed to do. And then if you also have enough testosterone, then that muscle tone is going to build even better and work even better. They'll say things like with testosterone, oh, guys they're going to have your visceral fat, right? Testosterone is going to help you deal with your visceral fat. And so, what's more important? Do you put diet and exercise? Do you say, I'll take diet and exercise any day over a hormone? Or do you take a hormone over diet and exercise? The truth is you need both.
Yeah.
You need both. And if your body is out of whack, you might need, some thyroid. I listened to your story. I'm curious how, when you lost weight during menopause, that's the story I'm talking about. And you said you were losing your hair and things like that. How did that reverse, and did it reverse enough? Like, did your hair come back the way you wanted it to, or did you have other things that you checked out? Did you have your hormones checked, or did the doctors just push back on you? Or
No, I got to push back. I didn't get, it wasn't, so I was 47, 48 at that time going through that. I didn't know it was perimenopause. I had no idea. Like, because nobody was talking about that 7 years ago. Not people like me weren't talking about menopause. You didn't say anything about menopause, you know? So I got,
and you were just the butt of all kinds of men's jokes. Oh, yeah, she's at that age, you know.
Yeah. And well, let's do birth control and antidepressants. And I'm like, what? Okay, no. So I was losing hair by handfuls. So it was alarming, like, you know, just clogging up the drain. And that's when that got my attention. That and the fact that I was a personal trainer, right? And how come I can't get this into line? And so I didn't get my hormones tested. I had no idea. That wasn't even brought up. That wasn't an option. I didn't even know to ask for that. Yeah. And so I cleaned up my lifestyle and adjusted my diet and my training. Now, as I'm going through this journey, now I'm starting to see the effects of actual menopause, right? So that's perimenopause, still going through menopause. And now my testosterone and thyroid is low. So you have a test, and I'm going to include that link in the show notes, but I've been having regular testing since April. So I know where my hormones are, but your test was right on, and I'm still working on it.
And it's just a couple questions about symptoms, right?
It's a few questions, but it was like low thyroid, low testosterone. So, but like I was at 0.2, you know, and now we're getting it to 2, you know, but it's still not where it needs to be. And same with thyroid, but that's what your test pointed out too. So,
and are you noticing a difference?
Slowly but surely. So yeah. So I was on, I still am, estrogen and progesterone. And then that started in April. Is hot flashes. We're just out of control. And so that cleared away right away. And my sleep issues and not being able to sleep.
It's amazing how fast it clears away, isn't it?
So fast. It was like within a week. So it was actually on my trip to Utah when I was like, oh my God, this is just radiating. I'm like, I need to get this addressed when I get home. And so I did. And just recently, I'm like, something is off. I just don't have the mojo. I just don't feel the oomph to go. And I work out, right? A lot, yeah. Not a lot, but I'm consistent. I'm a girl who's going to go in and push in the gym. And I'm just like, I just don't feel like being here. Like, I don't have the energy. And I'm like, okay, something else is up. Go back in, and now let's get tested. And yeah, sure enough, you know, and my testosterone was on a decline, but I wasn't too alarmed at the time, but now it's time.
How did you find someone who would actually help you? Was that a battle or?
I went to my primary care, who was, you know, since I've gone through a couple different primary cares. And so I was recommended to someone that deals with hormones specifically.
Yeah.
So, but it's not, it's just about an hour and a half drive.
And it's worth it, right?
Get up there. Oh, it's worth it. Yeah. I'm getting tested like probably about every 6 weeks now, just to see where we're at. And we've doubled my thyroid. So on Armor.
And here's the thing I would say, right? You know, I think everybody has a different philosophy, but I don't test as much as some other guys because I'm like, where do you want to be? Pick a number, right? That range, I know that range is bogus, right? It's made by the insurance companies. I went and got a colonoscopy because I'm at that age, right?
Yeah.
And I started talking about blood pressure because my blood pressure came way down at the end. And of course, because I was loaded on all their drugs. And they said, oh, did you know, because I asked lots of questions, and they said, yeah, they're considering changing the blood pressure range to increase it by 5 points. I said, what do you mean? Why are they doing that? And the girl says, I don't know. And I said, I know. It's because they figured out if they can increase it by 5 points, people aren't going to die yet. And we're going to save this many millions of dollars on blood pressure medicine, because they're not going to die till they get 6, 7, 8 points above this number. So let's increase it by 5 points. Someone with a sharp pencil did the math and said, you know, we won't lose as many people as we save as much money.
Yeah.
And that's the same thing with hormones. You know, look, testosterone, is tremendously beneficial. Your heart is a muscle. It increases your heart muscle. It acts like progesterone does for women. You know, men go through menopause too, right? They get depressed. They lose their mojo. They have brain fog. Testosterone gives them their fight back. And it's not just about muscle tone. You know, there's a difference. You know that difference when you go to the gym and you feel tired. You just want to sit on the couch and click the remote.
Yes, I do.
Or you have muscle fatigue and you kind of feel good. You feel like I had a good workout. I worked my muscles. That's the difference. Like, that's kind of when, you know, there wasn't enough testosterone, at least for a guy, right?
Yeah.
And testosterone's a slow,
same experience.
and same thing, right? Do you feel like doing a hobby for men and women? You know, when I'm done doing all my work, do I feel like doing something that I used to do that I did just for fun? If you don't, you probably need some testosterone. And, you know, thyroid, DHEA is another precursor, just over-the-counter supplement that helps you make progesterone and helps you make testosterone that has antidepressant effects. You know, you would be surprised at how depressing hormones can be, right? If they're out of whack.
Yeah.
It's kind of amazing. How do you run into people that, like, when you're coming out, obviously when they come to you, they've made a decision. Look, I'm at the end of my rope. I'm going to go all in. How do you help? And I'm curious, I really want to know, do you run into some people that are just like, I can't do it anymore. I just can't. Like, where are they at when they come to you?
I think they're more hopeful. They're not at that point yet. Just frustrated with, they're doing all the things, you know, and the doctor, again, not helping them out. But they're doing all the things, which is usually the stuff that they've been doing in their 30s and 40s, and it just stops working. Right. And so for a lot of my clients, they're just not eating. They're just not eating and not giving their body any nutrition. Themselves. Yeah. And then on top of that, they're piling on the exercise. So that's why I'm asking, you know, with this lifestyle. So for my approach, let's address these big things first, and then let's see where you're at. And I have so many testimonials where they're feeling freaking amazing, right? Yeah. By eating. And taking down some of those calories, or I should say that exercise that they're doing, and doing something to support their metabolism and their hormones, instead of those soul-sucking workouts, you know, that's depleting their energy that they don't even have in the first place. You know,
you have to take care of yourself. Cortisol. You can't keep giving from an empty cup.
Yeah. And that's the second piece, is that stress piece, which that is the hardest one for me to address. These ladies, that they just have to bring it down. Like, we can't be running around like doing everything for everybody else and worried about this and that. I don't know. I don't think men do that as much as women do. We take all this on their shoulders. Men have a different responsibility. You're the provider, right? But we do everything else. Like, how is it all going to look? You know,
that's definitely my wife is the same way, right? She won't go to the doctor. I will. I have something up. I want to get it fixed so I can keep moving. And she's like, well, no, so you need this first and you need that first. They take care of everyone else first. Mm-hmm. But she doesn't realize that me, as the man in her life, I would be 110%.
You need her to take care of herself.
Yes, please. I know that you can't keep giving from an empty cup. Let's be teammates here. Let's go together. Let's, you know, that's, if I could preach anything, it's like women, you do have to fight for your health. And I wish you would. You know, this sounds philosophical, right? It's a little bit religious, but there's an old monk. His name's Bernard of Clairvaux. You could go look him up. And he has these different degrees of love. And he talks about loving God. And I'm going to mess it up. I'm going to mess up the quotes, what each rung. And he has like these 4 or 5 levels of love for God. And you think as you go up each one, you're becoming more and more loving to God. And one of them was it kind of starts out that you love God because you want something from him. And so it's a bit selfish. And as you go up the rung, you love God because you want to serve him, right? At the highest level, it sounds selfish or counterintuitive. And I don't remember exactly how he says it, but he says it translates, or the way I translated it was, you love yourself and take care of yourself so God doesn't have to. That is the highest form of showing God love, is that you take care of everything so God can go about and do his other business with other people who really need him. That's the highest form of showing love for God. And I feel that way as a husband, right? If my wife would take extreme care of herself, and that doesn't mean you just go spend ungodly amounts of money on getting manicures and pedicures, but you do eat the best foods for your body. I would, if I had to change my food budget so you could have the very best organic foods, let me do it. That I can't think of a better investment, that we are going to live a high quality of life together for the rest of our life. Like, please take care of yourself.
Yeah. Self-care, right? It's a dynamic, as far as females, taking care of everybody else first instead of us, when really, if we just had just a little bit more attention to ourselves, and we would be able to do those things. But take care of yourself first, and then you'll have that left to give. All right. So where does someone start, right?
Yeah.
How do you know if you need HRT? What are the symptoms of low hormones? What's the low hanging fruit? What can we address first, right? I mentioned your quiz.
Yeah. The low hanging fruit is those menopause symptoms. Those get taken care of, like you said, in a week. Cortisol issues, adrenal glands. There's all kinds of great adaptogenic herbs you can take to help balance those. You kind of ask yourself, am I tired and wired, or am I tired and exhausted? Those would mean different levels of cortisol. There's cortisol tests you can take. And I would agree with your doctor. Like, we just do a blood serum test, but you really should, if you think you have adrenal gland issues, you want to do a cortisol test where you kind of spit on a swab 4 times throughout the day, so you can see what your cortisol is doing throughout the day. And then you're going to take those herbs at different times of the day. You've got to manage your blood sugar, insulin and blood sugar by the way you eat. That's going to help you deal with cortisol and stress and inflammation. But the classic symptoms are, when you sit down to watch a movie, do you fall asleep? You sit down to read a book, do you fall asleep? Are you losing your hair? Are the back of your heels dried and cracked on your feet? All those are thyroid.
That's interesting. Why is that?
That's thyroid. Your body isn't working right? That just seems to be, we've noticed, the symptom of thyroid.
That is so weird, because that's happened to me. This just started.
So get your thyroid up.
I know. No, we are working on that.
Yeah, constipation could be a thyroid issue.
Yeah.
The low sex drive, the feeling tired after a workout but exhausted, not that good tired.
Yeah, depleted.
That's going to be your testosterone. You can't go to sleep, or you wake up at 3 a.m. and your mind is racing. This is going to be your progesterone. Or you just work, and you can't lose the weight, and you feel anxious all the time. That could be too high of estrogen. All of those things, right? But I think women just know, when the doctor says, well, your labs look normal, and you just go away going, I don't feel normal. Mm-hmm. Do not go on an antidepressant unless you really, really need to be on an antidepressant. Sometimes you fix these hormones and that need for the antidepressant goes away.
Yeah.
It goes away.
I've had clients come off of meds and antidepressants. Yep.
And even younger women, right? I can't tell you how many times we see someone who, they're going to get married. They're 25 years old. They're getting married, and their doctor says, here you go. Here's a prescription for birth control. And then they put on 10 pounds. They feel out of whack. They get a little depressed. And it's because they're getting a synthetic hormone. And that's a great way to start a marriage, right? Put on 10 pounds and feel depressed.
Right.
And then, and if you're on that for a long time, it's going to affect you. We're seeing it happen younger and younger. I also want to give one little warning. Look, if you have I have a book, like you can download the book for free. Do Your Hormones Have You Dragging, Sagging, and Nagging? This book is
I'll include that link in the show notes for sure.
This book is all about stories of real people who have come through our clinic. And if you recognize yourself in the stories, you probably need to have your hormones checked. Most insurances will cover the hormone testing. It won't necessarily cover, if you can't get your doctor to do it, find someone, like, I don't care, come to me. I'll send you a lab request to have your hormones tested. I'll teach you how to call your insurance company to make sure it's covered and get your hormones tested. And I'll do my best to help you interpret them, right? The book will help you understand some of the ranges, how you're feeling. But the most important part is you want to find a doctor who will treat the patient, not just the labs. You need to, though, you have to realize that those ranges, and they change from lab to lab, mm-hmm. but those ranges are made by insurance actuaries, really. They're average based on young people and old people.
Sick people
and healthy people.
There's a lot more.
And just, testosterone range used to be 600 to 1500. They've changed it down to 300 to 900. And I had a guy yesterday tell me his lab had his 300 to 700 was the normal range.
Because from my understanding is that is overall, it's the population that affects what that normal range is. And as we get sicker, more obese, and have these lesser levels, and that affects what is the new normal, but that's not optimal.
People, you're exactly correct. My doctor said, my regular primary care doctor, he says, your testosterone's getting a little high. It was in the 700 range. When I know it could go up to 12, 13, 1400, right? He's like, you're going to get roid rage. You're going to get angry with your kids. And I'm like, look, talk to my wife. Just the opposite has happened.
Yeah.
I have the patience now to deal with my kids because I'm not on my last nerve. Before, it was taking everything I had just to show up. And now I can show up the way I want to show up. And I'm not angry because I have enough fuel in this car to show up, and the diet and exercise is the icing on the cake. Well, you and I would probably say, right, egg before do the diet and exercise. Then if you need it, do the hormones. I say, do the hormones so you can do the diet and exercise. Which one's right? Yes, they're both right.
Do them both. It's like when people say, like, I'm not gonna weight train until I lose weight. Why?
Yeah.
What are we doing?
The other argument I hear is, why would I've heard that if I do hormone replacement therapy, then my body will stop making the hormone. Guess what? It's not making it now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, okay, what's going to happen between today and tomorrow that's going to magically kick it all in? Yeah, you can do it with the types of foods, and diet and exercise can stimulate some of that hormone production. It's going to take work. It's going to take work. I just please decide that you're going to take care of yourself, that it's worth living and having a good quality of life. And then trust your intuition. I mean, look, an expert learned it from an expert who learned it from an expert who just made it up. Look, you know if you're crazy or not. Hopefully, if there's something going on with your body, and if you're not getting the answers, take charge. Don't be afraid to go educate yourself. If you are anxious and all of this, read more books about hormones. Call and ask someone like me. I really want you to be educated. Find a doctor who has the heart of a teacher. And if you have to pay them for their time because your insurance says you got 10 minutes with the doctor and he's not allowed to be your friend and answer questions because that'll keep him from following protocol, then pony up your money if you can do it. Like, make it a priority. It's not as expensive as you think. Hire a coach like Kathy, someone who can hold your hand and walk through this experience with you and point you towards the right education so that you're not afraid to move forward anymore. That's what I'm all about, really.
I love it. That's a perfect message. Is there anything else that you want to add on, or what would be your main takeaway that you want people to know, women to know, or men?
Well, I think I've said it. I think you have this intuition to know when something's wrong. Follow it. Don't let anybody beat you down and tell you otherwise. Just keep looking. And you also know when there's someone with a good marketing scam just to extract dollars out of your pocket. If it sounds too good to be true, it's probably too good to be true. This is
hormonal, lose belly fat in 21 days with this hormonal blah, blah.
Yep. And there's not a one size fits all. Everybody's body is different. So you need someone who's going to walk with you through it, talk with you often, be a coach, hold your hand, go through it, be a teacher. And you know when you found that person. And if someone, you also know, I think, when it sounds too good to be true and someone's just going to charge you a whole bunch of money to do something once and give you kind of this one size fits all approach, because it's not one size fits all. That's why I don't like these pellets, right? Do the pellets, have you heard of the pellets?
They were leaning towards the pellets, which were they were expensive, and I said I don't like. I just want I'll just do the cream and do what I'm doing. It's definitely, it's about the money, right? And the pellets were pretty expensive, $400, I think, for that. And they're like, well, we're not sure how long it's going to work. And I'm like, but we can't get it out, right? So I'm like,
I've had women coming in with all of a sudden hormonal acne and their hormones are raging. And they go, I got a pellet put in. And they go, what do I do? And I say, wait 4 months.
Yeah. They were like, it could be 2 months. It could be 6 months. We don't know. And I'm like, that is just not.
So if you're doing balancing, you want a cream or a capsule that you can go up or down. And you call me up and you say, like, man, my heart's really racing, or I can't go to sleep. Let's increase your progesterone a little bit, right? Or now I'm going to sleep great, but I'm sleeping in the morning. Let's cut your progesterone down a little bit. And let's get it to that right. You can't do that with a pellet.
Right.
Pellet comes in 3 sizes, this size, or this size. Good luck.
Yeah. You're not
they help some people. Yeah, they feel amazing, but are they getting to their optimal level for their body? You can only adjust that with creams, capsules, and things like that. So anyways, I want people to go get the book, read the book, be inspired. It's at freehormonebook.com. Super easy to remember. You'll put it in the notes.
I will.
And I just want people to become, to fight for your own health. That's what I really want. And if I can help you, great. If Kathy can help you, great. Let's work together and get you live with a high quality of life for the rest of your life.
Thank you very much. And where can people find you on your social media or website?
Oh gosh, the website is Hormone Balance Centers with an S.com. So it's plural, hormonebalancecenters.com. And through Free Hormone Book, whatever, you just get in the loop. At the new year, I'm going to be pushing out all kinds of education, free education and videos and things like that. And that's it. Thank you so much for having me.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you very much for coming on. I appreciate your time. And I will talk to you soon.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.